To do an actual rendering, all we need to do now is we simply go to Render and click Render. And there it is. There's our image. Pretty cool, no? Let's say we want to do another image. We can go to slot 2. Here you see I have this image. How did I create this? So let's hide this. You see here right now we see just this shell. So here it is. Visibility in viewport, render in viewport, and render in render mode. I want to show you something. Oh, this is not visible, but this is turned on. And let's do a render. Zack, there it is. No? Okay, so this basically explains also what this camera thing here is. Everything that has the camera turned on will show up in rendering. So let's turn this one on and do another rendering. So you see now the reference geometry is actually being pulled into this rendering. Okay, very good. So covered how to do a rendering, how to do various images. Let's actually go into a few details. Quality of rendering. So when I zoom in here, and let's select this object, go to modifier. You see here, levels viewport is set to 3 and render to 4. Let's set render to 1. Okay, let's do render. Wow, now you can see what's going on there. So this is the subdivision for rendering. This is the subdivision for the viewport. So here, when I set this to 1, there you can see it. So that's another thing that's important to understand. Also here we have render flags. So if I, for example, turn this off, then it even gets no subdivision during rendering. Okay, so how to do rendering, how to set the render flag, all that is done. Maybe the last thing that is good to know is render quality. We can go to here, render properties, sampling. Let's zoom in a little bit. You see when we zoom in and out, this flickers a little bit and gets cleaner. Let's set this to 1. You see, doesn't do it. Let's set this to 200. Whoa, looks nice and soft now. 64. So this is now what would render, or 12. That's our viewport. So let's set this to 120. So this is for rendering and this is for the viewport, the quality. Again, similar to here what we have there for object geometry refinement. We have then more settings here for doing the rendering, ambient occlusion, bloom effect, depth of fields, screen space, reflection. Now we want to show reflectivity. We can go to shadows, high bit we can turn on. There are more options here, for example, color management, if we want to tone an image. This is actually maybe interesting to look at. You see how the colors are adjusted, like a really high contrast. You know, when you go from the outside into a dark room, your eye adjusts. So we can play with exposure and everything. This is basically how you would develop your image, like in photography. We just do the same in digital rendering. Very good. So the sampling, just one warning, so you understand: more samples, more quality, slower rendering. Less samples, faster rendering, lower quality. Let's go to render and view rendering. Okay, so this is slot 1 and we will render this with 120. Still goes pretty fast. Okay, let's go to slot 1 and 60. So this took 1 second, press J, 2 seconds. Now, but now I mentioned the rendering takes 1 minute and then 2 minutes, 5 minutes and 10 minutes. Now you can see how very quickly this can add up. So in general, from the beginning, be mindful of the render samples, particularly also here with subdivision. This should never be about 3, 4 maybe, but 6 is excessive. Good, so how do we save images? We can go to output. Here, output, if we click on this, we can specify a standard output directory. But actually, when we do a rendering, we just save the image right from here. This is the image viewer, by the way, or image editor. And then we go image, save as. We are desktop here, and then we can specify the format. Select PNG or TIFF, JPEG, just don't. JPEG has artifacts, compression artifacts. PNG is good. And for transparent backgrounds, you want to have the RGBA. This is something we can't do with JPEG anyway, or simply RGB. I simply have it always on RGBA. Give this a name, click save, and that is it. Everything that at the moment is important to know how to do renderings. Very easy. The last thing which could be quite useful to know. So you see here it says render region. What is this? Press B in a camera and drag. No, not B. No, not this key. Which one was it? Shoot, Control B? No. Yeah, Control B. Very good. So Control B, we draw and there you can see like a dotted area around it. And now render region is turned on. Crop to render region. And do a render. Zack. You see, only that particular element of what we framed is rendered, and then the image got cropped to this dimension. If we turn this off and do a rendering, there you see it renders the image and it keeps the original 7 by 1000 and puts the rest in as transparent. One last double check. Yeah, that's it. Very good.